Webcam microphone up close. Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was a...
See, but I have the files. You know, I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? The brain, you know, days and the frontal slab of choice. I don't know when that was. It doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not Jesse Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It doesn't. It's hard to get real information because seriously, they don't want you to have just read two sources whenever I try to prove out. You know, it's not. If you expect your government to tell you the truth, you're going to sadly disappoint on another one of these things.
Dear Lord, what a dirty, dirty old man.
Really? Can't be serious. Is this really how you want things to be? Come on. More hooker, eruptions? Eruptions, whatever.
Like Dave Powers kind of...
Really?
Allegedly broadcast live from Pima Region 2. Within the borders of the formerly united and currently occupied states of America, we bring you the Ochelli Effect.
It's like, damn sure, no, I'm an original.
We have all these situations. I'd love to know why it takes 50 years, for...
That's that.
For a 19-year-old girl to eventually get up to gumption to put these things out.
And that is definitely that. This is Thursday night on UCY.TV radio. We are live on December 11th, 2014. The best laid plans of mice and men and all that good stuff. So, you are on the Ochelli Effect. You have tuned into me for some reason or other. I don't know why, but here you are. I feel like starting off the show from now on with the first rule about the Ochelli Effect is that you don't talk about the Ochelli Effect. The second rule about the Ochelli Effect is you don't talk about the Ochelli Effect. Because I'll tell you, I'm getting that feeling at this point. In case you don't know what I'm referencing, of course, that's a movie called Fight Club and all that good stuff, and I found that one highly, highly entertaining. Especially, Operation Chaos and all that. And a sip from the coffee cup. So what I was going to do tonight actually was have Dylan Wade on to go through and have a little debate again with Colton Montgomery, who was that right-wing kid that we had on last time. And the results of that debate were definitely clear there. Dylan kind of got his head handed to him.
Thanks.
Oh, there you are, Dylan.
Of course, that's when I joined.
Right. Well, appropriate timing. So for those who don't know who Dylan Wade is the guy who does The Truth Speaks. He's out there. He's a younger guy, 16 now. I used to say 15, but has now turned 16. Has done this show on YouTube and on various other networks all over the place. And that seems to be in flux right now, so you're all over. I don't know what your schedule is, man. You got more shows going than I do, which is pretty weird.
I'm actually down to one a week.
Well... That happens, man. It does.
Yeah. It goes through phases.
Well, you know what? That gives you the opportunity to really pack that one show with everything you want to do, So.
Oh, yeah.
But
that one's in flux, too.
Well, when I started doing this show, I originally envisioned that I would have, like 5 days a week, and I would have all kinds of great things to do every single day, and that's not what happened, So at this point, I broadcast 4 days a week, 3 days on UCY, and 1 day on the Liberty Beacon radio network, because that's just the way it kind of panned out. And it's just the way it happened. So anyway, we were going to have Dylan and Colton on, but Colton seems to have found himself in the mountains, he says. So.
I would have loved to win that debate.
Well, I said, based on your last performance, I don't...
Chuck,
Yes.
we will forget that last one happened.
Oh, is that what you would like to do?
Yes.
Sounds very much like what various members of the Bush administration would like to do about now, but okay.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes we need to admit to our mistakes and understand that we need to make sure they don't happen again. But
I know. You've reminded me of them a lot.
Well, look, all the opportunities you take to break my chops, I got to do it to you sometime.
Oh yeah, go ahead, dude. I enjoy it.
Exactly. And look, hostility always fuels us to seek to improve ourselves in one way or another, right?
That's a backwards way of looking at it, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, I did say in some of the little posts and things that I put out there that we were going to discuss the younger generation's perspective on what's going on in the world today, so let's just hit the top sort of stuff that's going on. And I'll tell you what I was going to go through in the debate is I was going to start off with, discussing, like what the two of you's views were on Ferguson and all that, but of course you and I have already sort of covered that together. I don't know if we discussed the whole chokehold death in New York City. I don't remember if we did. I think we might have, briefly. Did you hear about that kid in Cleveland, though, that had the toy gun?
Yep.
And did you happen to see the group of, I think it was 8 or 9 mothers that were going around and making the statement about their sons being killed by police?
Yes. That was actually one of the points I was going to make in the debate, because I read that story couple days ago.
Well, right, and it's an interesting thing to see. I still am saddened by the idea that this is being seized upon as a racial issue. There is racism that does exist. It's not as though it's a complete misnomer. But the thing is that what people like ourselves are concerned with at this point is the militarization of the police, which is funny because one of those mothers actually made that statement during an appearance on one of the cable news channels. Is that at the end of the day, I mean, although she did also equate, police shootings of young black men to genocide, which made me cringe a bit because it has not reached that kind of level. It's not the type of wholesale slaughter.
She sounds like the kids in my class.
Oh, boy. You know what? I was going to just get to that next, because the last time we had this police brutality discussion, let me sum up what the kids in your classroom were saying there by saying essentially they believe that Barack Obama doesn't care about black people.
And that he wants to kill them.
Yeah, which, and he's involved in the genocidal ideals just for blacks, though, mind you. Which is pretty warped. But I was wondering, has the conversation gone any further since you last dropped that one on me that did leave me speechless?
I know, it's amazing. I never thought I could leave you speechless, but no.
No, nothing else has come up.
No, we've been studying a lot of history. It's amazing in history class.
Oh, well, an amazing thing after all, because as I've cited many, many times, things that are labeled one particular thing are definitely not what, they're misrepresented by their labels all the time.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
The CIA, NN, Central Intelligence Agency News Network, they have now become more of a documentary sort of based presentation in general. I mean, their news stories are now exactly the kind of thing that Suzanne Posel discussed on my show, which was all about native advertising and making sure that they could continue to push their, hopefully Emmy Award-winning, documentaries about dinosaurs and things. These are big news stories, while the world is meeting hell and handbasket all together at once. Rather interesting. But anyway, back to it. Did you see that Michael Brown's parents went to the UN and actually talked to them regarding human rights abuses and things like that? Did you catch that?
Yeah, I heard about it. I didn't catch it, but I did hear about it.
Well, of course, the conclusion there is that the United States, is pretty much talking out of both sides of their mouths regarding this stuff. And, of course, proof positive came out this week regarding the CIA torture stuff, which we'll get to in a minute. But you mean to tell me that you're actually studying history now and not having debates about current events?
Yes.
I will bet you anything that your teachers were told to keep that one calm. And
last time some of the kids were asking the teacher for a map so that they could go out over the weekend with guns.
Wow. See, again, I'm at a loss, over what? I mean...
Over Ferguson.
Over Ferguson. And meanwhile, just in full disclosure, I mean, you're in New Jersey, so... I'm not saying where in New Jersey, but you're in New Jersey, for God's sake. All right. Anyway.
Yeah, move on from that. It's a losing battle.
Right.
I learned that pretty early on.
Now, here's the funny thing. Jax in the chat room says that, wow, the kids in his class are kind of right. Does Barack Obama not care about black people? Yeah, probably, but I don't think he cares about anybody. I think he's just doing as his masters prescribe for him, just like most of the people that you see on the big stage. I mean, that's just my opinion, but go ahead, Noah.
Just because somebody doesn't care about a particular group of people or people in general doesn't mean he's trying to cause a genocide of that specific group of people.
Well, yeah, that's true. I don't believe that his genocide is targeted, but he is participating in the overall genocide of the populace in general.
Yes.
One way or another. Definitely well packaged and sold to the idiots that still think that their votes really, really count regarding something like the presidency of the United States.
Although, if I have to bring up more, one of the kids in the class asked if there was actual video footage of the Revolutionary War. And if they recorded it with a tripod.
How in the hell did that come up?
I don't know. I was speechless.
How come there ain't a DVD of Lincoln getting shot in the head? All right. What was the television saying then? They knew where John Wilkes Booth was. They let him go. All right. I'm sorry. Which they probably did, by the way. I mean,
probably.
Dear God. Is every class of yours like this? I mean, where you have these interesting assertions where it's just like...
No, not really. My English class is a bit like it, but there's one kid in the class who actually has his head screwed on straight.
Well, yeah, and I mean, look, in English, at least you'd have to approach, rhetoric to some degree. I mean, rhetorical questions, philosophical commentary, these types of things would be approached in an English class.
Oh, yeah. He and I actually get along quite well. He has his head screwed on straight. He knows what's going on.
Yeah, yes, Jax. You know what? If the Time Travelers taped it, by the way, and I'm talking to Jax in the chat room, if the Time Travelers taped it, good on them, man, and I want a copy. But first, I would like them to go and actually take a high-res photograph of what's going on in that sixth-floor window that they say Oswald was shooting out of. I want that first. I'm sorry, because the Lincoln assassination, despite the assertions that some people make that perhaps his wife shot him, which now has been transmuted. I finally figured that out, by the way. Did I tell you that?
No.
This is where the Jackie killed Jack thing has now come from, because there is an assertion that that the Derringer used to shoot Lincoln in the head was a woman's Derringer, and it probably been hers and everything else. That doesn't explain all of the eyewitness testimony and the whole John Wilkes Booth narrative in the slightest, unless they got away with that one a lot better. But just for everybody's knowledge, by the way, there's still stuff classified on the Lincoln assassination, just so you know.
Anyway,
yeah,
I'm sure that means nothing.
Well, why would it, right? Why would it? I'll tell you what else I want is a time traveler to jump in and out of one of those planes on 9/11 really quickly to see what was actually going on. But, all right. But call me kooky. I mean, I would love that, and also a tape of the meeting at Jekyll Island. You know,
if he could get there.
Mm-hmm. Well, all he'd have to do is jump that train that was leaving Hoboken on November 22nd.
2 days after my birthday.
That's 2 days after your birthday. You were born on the 20th, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You know, I always screw up everybody's...
The Facebook thing is wrong. It automatically loaded my birthday.
Oh, cute. Cute. Well, I love that. There's a bunch of wrong stuff on my Facebook profile. I just leave it there. I don't correct it.
It automatically uploaded a month earlier than my actual birthday.
Nice. Okay, well, that's probably why I ended up wishing you a happy birthday on the wrong day.
Facebook is screwy. But no, that was 2 days after my birthday in my state. That's a little...
Okay, well, let me just run this. Let me just run this by you. So what you're telling me is that there's absolutely been no discussion regarding the Garner death in New York City among your classmates or anything?
No, that's too easy.
Oh, that's too easy. All right.
They like to go. They like to go for the stuff that'll make me think. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, yeah, of course.
No, they like to go for the illogical stuff. Like, why didn't they record the Revolutionary War? Why didn't George Washington go on TV?
Dude,
stuff like that.
You're not telling me that some kid said, basically, where's the TV footage of George Washington during the Revolutionary War, are you?
I can't make this up.
You see, here's the thing. When people tell me that that people in your generation are going to be so much smarter and they're going to understand their computers very well, they may understand the computers very, very well. They may understand computer code, but common sense seems to be gone. Wow.
Yeah.
And wow.
I was the only one in the class who had any common sense in that discussion.
So no discussion of the 12-year-old boy who was shot to death wielding a plastic gun? None of that, huh?
Too easy. There's no debate to be had about genocide with that. Actually, there's a bit more of one, but...
Well, I guess I'm just amazed that they can even, conjugate a word like, genocide together and actually speak about it. That's interesting enough. Yeah. I wonder where they picked that one up. Yep, ho-hum.
Huh.
And this is the thing, when people say to me, because people used to say stuff to me like, look, you ought to go to the high schools and, inform some of these kids about the real history and give them at least a diverse point of view, explain to them that there are revisionists who are working on legitimate documents and things like this and attempting to actually discern what's occurred in our, recent historical past, etc., etc. There are people that say that to me, and I say to them, I really don't have the time to do it because it would take me, I might as well get a teaching job, and I don't think they're going to give me one of those.
I would like to see you teach at my school.
Well, yeah, but if I taught, look, it would not take long before, DHS people broke in there and dragged me away. I'm very, very sure, because after all, I would...
Chuck, that would make for a fun history class.
Yeah, but just one, you see, and then that wouldn't do much good, and then they'd bring in some guy who droned there and put you all to sleep, probably. Okay, so no discussion about the 12-year-old kid with the plastic gun who got shot to death, no discussion about the long history of what's gone on, just seize upon the racial aspect, blame it on Barack Obama, which is pretty funny, and then call it a genocide, and then move on to the Revolutionary War and why it wasn't televised. I mean, really, that's where it goes in your history class.
Yes.
Okay. So, in English, God help me. In English class, what about there? I mean, any other discussion about this? I mean, the language, the way things have changed and been shaped culturally, any of that stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
One person in the class actually questioned the teacher on it.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Where do you want to go with it? Because it's multiple occasions that that this kid and the teacher have gone at it about this.
Well, okay, how about the most recent stuff regarding what we were already talking about here?
The teacher was talking about racial divides. Basically the same thing the students in history were talking about.
Well, but what was the context? Was there literature we were discussing? I mean, this
we were reading The Crucible.
Oh, okay, excellent, because that usually brings up a whole lot of cultural aspects, the evolution of, religious fervor in this country, et cetera, et cetera. So actually, that could be a really interesting, sort of intellectual debate or something that's provocative. So go ahead. What came up there regarding race? I mean, was it because of Tishba, the slave that had been accused of witchcraft in the story, or what?
Well, that had been one of the supporting factors, but he had basically asked the class, are there any modern-day witch hunts? And somebody brought up the police brutality against minorities.
Police brutality
as a
against
witch hunt. I'm not sure.
Oh, because it might be a witch hunt. Okay, so go ahead. Yes. What else came up there?
That was interesting. So, basically, all of these debates seemed to end up me and the other kid versus the rest of the class.
Wow. All right, let's leave the dead horse alone then. Has anybody been discussing the CIA and the torture situation? I mean,
no, that didn't come up.
Okay, that doesn't come up at all.
No.
All right. Well,
not even a mention.
All right. Well, I'm going to go take a look at my news feed.
We can still talk about that if you want to, but no discussions in my class about it.
Well, no problem. If you have something that you want to say about it, I'll be more than happy to hear what your viewpoint is, but there's no interaction or engagement from your peers about it.
I actually wanted to ask you, do you think it's effective? I think I know your answer.
Is torture effective? Or is that your question, or
does it do what the CIA thought it did?
Well, no, and here's the sad part, and I'm going to get all kinds of crap for bringing this one up, but I'm sorry, look, even a broken clock is right twice a day, so even these mainstream shills occasionally get something right. It's probably accidental, and probably, they pushed a little too far to incite some sort of debate regarding the left-right paradigm, but I'm going to tip my hat to, believe it or not, Rachel Maddow on this one.
Really?
Because, she brought up Nochi Parenko, which was a Soviet agent that the United States had gotten via defection in, I believe, 67 or 68. Oh, no, wait a minute. Hold on. Let's try that again. 63, just prior to the Kennedy assassination. Okay. And of course, but here's the fun part. Parenko was a KGB guy and had full knowledge of what was going on with a guy named Lee Harvey Oswald. So what did they do? What did they do with him? They took him, and tortured him for quite a while, and we still will never know the details of that. To try and extract information out of him regarding what else was forthcoming, especially post-Kennedy assassination. There it is. They had a hold of him for quite a while and apologized to him in 2000. I think 2004 they actually apologized to him. I got to think about it, but I saw this go by and I went, whoa, she actually got something right. So they determined that they couldn't get anything useful out of him. Of course, his story, according to the CIA, because we never really got his full version of it, though there is a book out there that proclaims to tell his version of the story. It's I do not trust it as a source, but anyway, what were you going to say?
I I'm a little shocked that she was right about anything.
Like I said, broken clocks, even if they are broken in place, broken clocks with two hands on them, twice a day, that time is going to be right. Okay?
Yeah, but I always figured these mainstream guys were the broken clocks with one hand.
Well, this is true, and then a lot of them are, but sometimes if they've only got one hand, that means that they're partially right several times a day. So that's probably a better way to look at it. But anyway, back to what I was saying. The thing is that they took this guy into custody. He said that, Oswald was, which it was revealed later, Oswald was an idiot and not really useful according to the KGB. And I think his IQ tests and things that we have discovered about him over the years, and talking to people that knew him personally and everything myself, I would say that he was not the brightest human being and capable of being a double agent, so they didn't utilize him.
So Chuck, can I tell you a quick story?
Well, okay, but I had more to say about it. Let me just finish this.
Go ahead.
Let me just finish this, because this is where Maddow gets it correct. They examined that. They revisited that case a few years later and determined that really their methods did not help them along regarding Parenko. Then they also looked into the methods that they utilized to try and get things out of Cubans, other Russians, etc., etc. We had congressional hearings taking the CIA to task and everything else. This is where we discovered that that there was the the Get Castro programs, etc., etc. Okay, all this stuff. Okay. And over again, different CIA directors, different individuals who are in charge of methods and practices over the years determined that torturing people would definitely extract confessions and things like that. Yes, but generally speaking, they discovered over time that what would happen is they would extract information that was not useful. Because pretty much, if you got you got a set of jumper cables hooked up to a part of my body, I might tell you anything to get you not to run the juice through them. Okay. So, over and over again, they determined it and decided that they should not utilize these methods in order to extract reliable or sensitive intelligence, that they needed to use other means. They kept doing it, and then, of course, in the late 70s, post George H.W. Bush having been the CIA director, they again revisited the idea and made the same determination. Although they were fully willing, able, and happy to teach those methods to the death squads in South America, and we see the same stuff going on under, Executive Action Officer or Vice President George H.W. Bush during the Reagan administration again. And they discovered what? That these things were very good at terrorizing a population or a people, but they were not good at doing anything regarding gathering fresh or sensitive intelligence. It wasn't going to get you to a different story than various other methods. Anyhow, of course, we can go back and forth about the drugging and everything else that went on, and the MK Ultra programs, the MK Delta programs that were utilized, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, but over and over again, throughout history, they revisited this and determined that it was no good. It was no good. It wasn't helpful. And then, of course, post 9/11, it was suddenly a good idea again.
Wow.
Now, I see people that are posting stuff, and this is why I was going to go to my newsfeed, because the Ochelli Effect newsfeed, well, I don't even need to read this stuff because there's a bunch of it on there. Of course, I even reposted the whole thing with Dick Cheney calling the whole report a bunch of crap and everything else. But the thing is that throughout my newsfeed is also a bunch of people out there saying, you know what, here's a picture of, like showing a picture of somebody jumping out of the World Trade Center towers, and I don't give a damn what they did to some terrorists to extract information. Vengeance has its place, and I do understand that emotion, but you know what? Whatever's not tactically useful, whatever is not going to develop intelligence, is still useless regardless of how good it might make you feel to burn, twist, and torture Haji. It's not going to necessarily do anything good for the country. you're not going to gain the greater intelligence that you need. And besides that, there's a whole lot of other sneaky methods that you can use that don't involve, human rights violations in a direct sense that could, that could be utilized. So it appears to me as though, and believe it or not, again, a guy like Montel Williams has it correct, that the people that participated in, designed these programs and everything else should be held accountable for whatever it is that they did illegally, and we should admit as a country that we made mistakes here and move on. I hate to support him even though he's a guy who does, advocate the use of medical marijuana and all that kind of stuff, and kind of always liked Montel in a way. But the thing is, it's not a viable means to gather stuff, in my opinion. Okay? But anyway, what's your viewpoint on all that?
Torture as a whole? It's useless. All it's there to do is promote the idea that the government can do whatever it wants, and it also proves that the government does not care about human rights.
Well, yeah, talking out of both sides of our mouths about conventions and and what is supposed to have been established at Nuremberg and all that other good stuff is kind of pointless when we're talking about what it is was done in our names. Now, that all being said, I also say that the intelligence agencies are completely out of control, but they were given a green light by the ostensibly legitimate government officials in this country. And I don't care. Darth Vader, right? Otherwise known as
Darth Cheney.
Right, exactly. Darth Cheney there. Darth Cheney and... I'm sorry, you broke up. What?
I'll never get tired of saying that.
No, I love that. I love the graphic where they've got him in the Vader suit too. That's beautiful. But and of course the people that want to say that it's perfectly acceptable to do this to others, and it's perfectly acceptable for us as a nation to sign off on this kind of behavior. I'm sorry, I don't, and I can't, and I don't think that human rights violations, and other people say, well, war is war, and, this is the way it has to go, and all that, but,
there are some things you do and don't do, well, especially if you're going to call yourself a moral country, looking out for human rights, live it.
What cracks me up is that a whole lot of the people that, that take this position regarding, torture, hey, it doesn't matter, they killed 3,000 of our people, so whatever we did to any of them, first of all, no due process, no proof of exactly who did what or anything else. And believe me, I'm going to cover this topic extensively on Saturday with Frank Gregory Ford. Once again, because he was a guy who was present at Abu Ghraib, was out in the field and everything else, being a medical person during these, so-called enhanced interrogations. And we're going to discuss exactly what was going on. And, the other weird thing is this concept that the the Army Field Manual, has a different style of handling this and everything else. You know what? These manuals, these documents, none of this crap means a damn thing if people are out there to do what it is they do. Anyway.
Sorry.
What are you sorry about?
I thought you were waiting for a response.
No. If you have something further to add to this, I mean, by all means.
You pretty much covered it.
But the thing is, learn from your mistakes. I mean, this is not going to work. I mean, yeah, everybody likes to watch Jack Bauer do his thing on 24 or whatever. That's all wonderful, and hey, we learn nothing from. We can't continuously take the moral high ground only when it suits us. I mean, look, if we're gonna be the the nation that's supposed to stand morally above others, then we have to behave that way. And if the intelligence agencies can't do it, then we need to come up with a way to disable them from acting on our behalf. As a nation. But that's not going to happen because these things are malignant growths that are creatures unto themselves, and they conduct themselves, and believe me, that report, that summary, which is only a summary of the 6,000 pages that they decided not to release, which is another joke, by the way, in my opinion. We can't release the whole thing because that'll cause a big backlash in the world. Do you think the rest of the world does not know that we have been doing this stuff forever now?
If you don't think that, you're stupid.
Well, how many countries, look, okay, let's just assume for a moment that the only places where this kind of stuff has gone on, where these, renditions and black sites have existed, and all of these things which are against the conventions and are against the Nuremberg, or against the Nuremberg Agreement and everything else. Let's just assume for a moment that we know about every single one of those incursions, which we don't, by the way. There's stuff that goes on that is never reported anywhere, okay, constantly. There have been plenty of overthrows of governments. There have been plenty of disruptions and toppling of regimes in various countries over time by the intelligence agencies that you still don't have a handle on. Not even in revisionist history hands have we really gotten a handle on this. I mean, I take heat occasionally for explaining that the drug war is way beyond just a joke. It is actually counterintuitive. Our intelligence agencies are completely in bed with the individuals that are dealing the illicit drugs on a much deeper level. I mean, I only point to the stuff that you can easily find, the hand of our government agencies being involved in. But trust me, there's a lot more going on than that, Anyway, and here I go digressing again, which I find funny because one of these days I'm gonna have a little show on how people started using terminology after it aired on certain shows and things in the alternative media. Now it's getting out there in the mainstream media, which is funny.
Militarized
police, and also I was sitting with you know what, I'll leave that story off the air. But let's just say...
Can you tell it to me after the show?
I'll give it to you after the show. But let's just say that somebody watched a mainstream guy who absolutely... Like, I don't watch the guy. I can't stand him. I look at him, and he makes me sick to my stomach, and I'm not even going to mention his name. But they were sitting there and saying, I've been listening to your show, and I still watch this guy, and I noticed something. As your phrases have been coming out of this guy's mouth for the past, month or so. And I said, what do you mean? And he showed me. And I just was astounded. He was correct. A lot of the ways that I phrase things in a whole lot smoother fashion and with plenty of commercial interruption. Some of the ideas, of course, they're not being put out there as the real ideas. They're being put out there to mock them or to say, well, there are some people that are, kooky that think this or that. And meanwhile, it's exactly the phrase, exactly the idea that was coming out of my mouth only a few days before. If you were listening to me, I'm starting to think I have some fans in the mainstream out there. But I can't prove it yet.
They must dislike you, too.
I'm sure they hate me. Well, anyway. But what do you think about all that? I mean, the way that they're... this nonsense about we're going to see a backlash from the Middle Eastern countries and the rest of the world. Do you think for a moment... Go ahead.
I think we already saw a backlash. It was called 9/11. If you believe the mainstream.
Nice. Man, oh man.
Hey, I corrected myself.
No, it's okay. I get it. But, believe me, there are very, very legitimate reasons why we are currently hated or feared across so much of the planet. There are things being done in your name, my name, in everybody's name who is, in this occupied land that used to be called, the United States of America, that go on in our name. This is what the problem is, and these people in various parts of the world think that completely represents the sentimentality, the desires of the people. They have this crazy idea that we still have control over our government. Okay, and meanwhile, we know the truth. We don't really have control or a great say-so over our government. It's become a joke. It's something out of our hands, just like the intelligence agencies are really not even a legitimate part of the government anymore. They're creatures unto themselves, and they have been for half a century, at the least. At the least. So anyway, what do you think?
I don't even know where to start.
Am I going to cause you to hyperventilate, sir?
No, I was laughing.
Oh, okay.
No, that wasn't me hyperventilating. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't want to see that happen. Not on my show, please.
No, if anything, it would be on mine.
All right.
So, where do I start?
Well, go ahead. Wherever you want to go. I'm going to pull up another article because I found something interesting while I was talking before. So go ahead.
I don't know how to talk without guidance. I'm sorry.
Well, what is it that...
I don't know how I'm a radio host.
Funny. That should be part of your bumper right there. I don't know how I'm a radio host. Awesome. It would make more sense than the chaos collage that I have on before my show, that's for sure. All right. Well, let's begin to read some. Go ahead. You got something to say? Go ahead.
No, I'm good. What do you have?
All right. Well, all right. I'm not going to state whether I endorse this or not, but I found this interesting. You guys will probably figure out whether I endorse this or not as we go along, because I can never quite keep control of myself. But off topic, the DOJ files prove President Kennedy and AG Robert Kennedy fighting Zionists when murdered. Okay. Department of Justice is DOJ, in case you don't know. Shocking DOJ Jewish lobby case files released under a Freedom of Information Act show President Kennedy and AG, which is Attorney General Robert Kennedy, were fighting the Zionists when they were murdered. The author here is Nikki Nelson.
That's fun.
Okay, these fascinating historical documents were released on June 10th, 2008, under a Freedom of Information Act filing. Let's see, I have in bold critical information just prior to President Kennedy's murder. Click on the date to see the original documents. And there is a bunch of links to this document and everything else. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually grab this and copy it to stick it into the chat room. Let's see now. There it goes. Okay. Again, not stating whether I totally endorse all of this, but the documentation is awfully fascinating. Okay, keep in mind the dates that President John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy were murdered while reading these historical documents regarding their efforts to get the nefarious Jewish lobby in America registered as foreign agents, as is required by law. AZC, American Zionist Council / AIPAC, the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. Instead of the Kennedy brothers accomplishing this critical goal, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC again, applied for a federal tax exemption in 1967, and the Federal Reserve's Criminal Collection Agency, the IRS, aka the U.S. Treasury Department, grants it. Backdated to 1953. And there is documentation for that. Congressman, get ready for this one, Congressman Donald Rumsfeld sent a letter to Robert F. Kennedy on behalf of the Zionists and the status of AZCFARA registration on July 15th, 1963. It appears Rumsfeld had been working on behalf of Israel and the Zionists his entire career, and we know what a big help he was to Israel during 9/11 when 3,000 of our countrymen were burned alive in broad daylight. FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which is what that did refer to, was enacted in 1938. It is a disclosure statute that requires persons acting as agents of foreign principals in a political or quasi-political capacity to make periodic public disclosure of the relationship with the foreign principal, as well as activities, receipts, and disbursements in support of those activities. Disclosure of the required information facilitates evaluation by the government and the American people of the statements and activities of such persons in light of their function as foreign agents. Okay, put that one in context with the the fact that there are so many people in our government currently that have dual citizenship with Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I'll skip a few pieces here and I'll go to November 22nd, 1963, John F. Kennedy died. 35th U.S. President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, commonly known as Jack Kennedy, or by his initials JFK, was an American politician who served as the 35th President of the United States from January 1961 until his assassination in November 1963. These documents may be more relevant today than they were at the time of their creation. Let's see here. Let's skip down a little bit, and we'll go to October 17th of 1963. J. Walter Yeagley, spelled Y-E-A-G-L-E-Y, notes of DOJ AZC meeting attended by Nicholas Katzenbach. Those of you who don't know who Nicholas Katzenbach was, he was the Assistant Attorney General under Robert F. Kennedy and was the de facto Attorney General who was functioning during the time that RFK was in mourning, and in fact took over many of his duties post-JFK assassination in the then claimed Johnson administration. Okay. Judge Rifkind then made a plea for no registration, stating it was the opinion of most of the persons affiliated with the council that, and then this is in bold, such registration would be so publicized by the American Council on Judaism that it would eventually destroy the Zionist movement. He did not believe his clients would file any papers or sign any papers indicating that the organization was an agent of a foreign principal. I told him that any such information or material that is supplied on that basis would be made part of the department's public files available for inspection by the public. About 1 month after this last correspondence, Kennedy was murdered. Okay. Let's skip down just a little bit.
Chuck, you're going to have fun with this one.
Yeah. June 6, 1968, Robert F. Kennedy, date of death. Robert Francis Kennedy, quote, Bobby Kennedy, commonly known by his initials RFK, was an American politician from Massachusetts. He served as a senator for New York from 1965 until his assassination in 1968. He was also the Attorney General under his brother and all that. Okay. Let's see. Moving on to documents here. Let's see. All right, fine. In the early 1960s, Israel funneled $5 million more than $35 million in today's dollars into U.S. propaganda and lobbying operations. The funds were channeled via the quasi-governmental Jewish agency's New York office into an Israel lobby umbrella group, the American Zionist Council. Senate Foreign Relations Committee investigators and hearings documented funding flows, propaganda, and public relations efforts and put them into the record. Now, this part is in bold, but the true fate of the American Zionist Council was never known, except that its major functions were visibly shut down and shifted over to a former AZC unit known as the Kennan Committee, called the American Israel Lobby Public Affairs Committee for AIPAC in the late 1960s. The following chronology provides links to the images, blah, blah, blah. And here's the thing, there's a bunch of links to the documents, etc., etc. And Kennedy was murdered 1 month after the first lobbying struggle with the Jewish lobby, etc., etc. Lyndon Johnson, attorney. Yeah, there's a whole slew of this stuff here. There's at least 40 different links, and then 3 or 4 separate video links. Pretty interesting. Oh, wait. Sorry, about 6 video links of interest there. All kinds of stuff in that article, so I think that's pretty fascinating. I don't necessarily go with the idea that the Zionists decided to slaughter Kennedy, but, you know, I think that, you know, the banks, the people that were involved in the military-industrial complex, the intelligence complex, etc., are definitely still where this whole thing came from regarding both JFK and RFK's murders. But, you know, I'm going to take a deeper look into all this stuff because from time to time this does happen. Anyway, any thoughts on that, Dylan?
I'm still trying to process it all.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. There were a lot of organizations that were definitely not acting in the best interests of this country that wanted both of these guys out of the way because they were still wielding power, and in some cases people believed that they were, you know, just as corrupt or just as much the, you know, the elite as those that probably cut them down. But
didn't JFK, when he was the senator or whatever he was beforehand, speak about weather modification at the United Nations?
Weather modification?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I don't recall a speech about weather modification, but...
he had said that he wants to be able to accurately predict when storms are going to hit and eventually be able to modify them.
Well, you know, that may have...
this was in 61?
Yeah, that may have appeared to be a good idea at that point. Of course, he was probably privy to a bunch of stuff regarding weather modification, geoengineering, and everything else like that.
He might have been corrupt at one point. You have to be somewhat corrupt to get there.
Well, yeah, I'm not stating that this guy was completely clean. I'm not one of these guys who lauds him as some sort of paradigm of all things good in the American system. Not at all. But here's the thing: he did still have this crazy idea that he was acting on behalf of the American people in general. And I think weather modification might have been represented to him as something that could have saved lives and all that kind of stuff. You know,
he was definitely one of the more clean presidents, but not the best of them.
No, definitely not. I mean, but then again, we didn't really have a chance to fully experience what the guy could have done because he was gone. You know.
Yeah. Pretty quick too.
Well, right, because again, he only served from those 1,000 days basically. You know, so it's hard to put him in context. I never agree with those that believe he was one of the greatest presidents. I never agree with those that believe he was one of the worst. You know, and You know, he was even in bed with trying to use the intelligence agencies to achieve his objectives until he realized that he didn't have any control. You know.
Well, he wanted control just like anyone else, but he wanted control for a seemingly decent purpose.
Well, right, and Nixon had different ideas about what he wanted to do as well, and he got removed by, you know, that bungling of CIA operation, black bag job that went on at the Watergate, which is the most farcical thing in the world. And he was undone by that, when meanwhile, every one of these guys has been corrupt for, geez, I don't know which president wasn't actually corrupt to some degree. Any of these guys that ascend to the hierarchy of the American political scene, in my opinion, seem to have not one of them been completely clean, except possibly George Washington, you know, who really didn't even want the job.
I think you would get some arguments from people about that.
Oh yeah, because he was a slave owner and whatever. But I mean, you know, realistically speaking. You know, you're also talking about a guy that, you know, paid for his own trip. I mean, he was a rich guy. Again, there's an aristocracy that arose in the American system, whether we want to admit to it or not. And, you know, and speaking of that, I'm still sickened by the fact that that people are, you know, so wrapped up in the British royals that it was a big deal that, you know, second in line to become the king, possibly, of England. Although, did you hear about that recent discovery regarding the possibility that the English royal family that's sitting there right now might not be legitimate?
Really? I hadn't guessed.
Well, no, actually, according to the bloodlines themselves, it could be that they're actually the spawn of an illegitimate child. After they did some work on some bones that they found under one of the abbeys over there in Great Britain. You haven't heard about any of that?
No, I haven't.
You got to get on the horn with your English friends, because I know you got a bunch of them, and
yeah.
See what they think about that. You could do a whole show on that. I would love to do a show on that, but I'm no expert on the British royals. I've been thoroughly disgusted with the fact that there is like idol worship of these people, and that Anglophiles continuously refer back to them as if they're some sort of great dynasty that should be lauded and honored. You know, so I've always been sickened by that, and. But anyway, you know, see, you can't push English people too much to speak about it, or people in the UK to speak about it too much, because there are actually laws over there where they can punish you for speaking out about the British royals. So, you know, carefully try and go over that subject with some of the people over there and see what they say.
Will do. Will do.
Well, anyway, believe it or not, we've killed an hour, Dylan.
Really?
Mostly with me. Yeah, really. Mostly with me rambling like an idiot, so. And yes, Jax, as I remember correctly, they are German. That is true. That's where they came from. But the thing is that there is a split now where they believe that that one of the kings at one point there was an illegitimate child that they might have actually branched off from, and that they were not supposed to be officially on the throne. So the Tudors, or the House of whatever the hell they are, the House of Windsor, may actually not have been legitimately on the throne all this time. So it's pretty funny. And I'd love to see that proven, actually, in repeated scientific studies, so that they could maybe once and for all actually abandon this nonsense of giving any power to the Queen, as it were.
Yeah. That would be interesting to see. Yeah.
Yep, true enough. Anyway, so what else have you been up to, by the way?
Not a whole lot. This coming week, I'm having Roxanne Meadows on my show.
Well, I have no clue who Roxanne Meadows is, so tell me that.
She is an expert on the Venus Project.
Oh, you're going to talk to them?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the following week, I have Thomas Sheridan coming on my show to discuss psychopaths.
Well, which Thomas Sheridan are we talking about? Because there's more than one out there.
The one who's affiliated with Benny Eastwood.
Ah, okay. All right. No problem. So not the American guy. All right.
No, the Irish one.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So that ought to be interesting, and you're going to talk about the psychopathology, basically?
Yes.
That ought to be an interesting show.
Yeah. That's all I have scheduled at the moment. I had more people scheduled, but I've had to schedule it out more with the recent network shuffling. It's been going on with CJ Mars and other networks that I'm supposed to be going on eventually.
What's going on with Shake and Wake?
I will not.
You don't want to comment on that, right?
Evidently, they were. No, I don't want to comment on that.
All right, no problem.
I'll talk to you afterwards about that.
No problem. So, which network are you actually solidly on right now?
People's Internet Radio.
Okay, that's the Irish based one, right?
Yeah, that's the one I'm solidly on.
Boy, I would love to get more Irish people on my show. I'll tell you, because after
a
all,
lot of these guys are really interesting.
Well, I'd love to go back and forth with some of them because I've heard some of them speak about a few things, and it would definitely be interesting to have them on here.
I'll Facebook suggest you a couple of them. All
right, cool. That would be great because after all, I am actually Sicilian and Irish, so be good to talk to some people and see if anybody can sympathize with my people being from the orange side of that flag. But probably not. I seek sympathy, and that's not what I get. Anyway.
Yeah, I haven't seen you get any sympathy, so...
It's not my forte, brother. It's just not. All right. So, and I hate to even go back into this. Have there been any other sort of political discussions that have gone on regarding current events and your fellow classmates?
You're a glutton for punishment.
Absolutely, because I want to make sure I'm good and depressed when I'm done with this show.
Oh, I'm sorry that I can't depress you. No, I've given you all the bad one. Well, I've given you the worst.
Well, is there anything hopeful?
Not that I've seen. Besides the one kid who actually understands what he's talking about. One kid in 3 years who knows what he's talking about.
Nice. Maybe we should get him on here.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I'll try.
And I did invite my daughter to join in if she wanted to. I don't think she's going to be able to because she has a prior commitment, but I'm hoping one night to get her back on. Because Katie, if you want to hear somebody fight with me, boy, my own daughter will do it just fine.
Chuck, I kind of want to see people fight with you, but at the same time, I like fighting with you. I don't think I'd let anyone beat you up as bad as I get to.
Well, we'll see. And plus, now on Saturday nights, Kim follows me with the show Jaded, which is an open roundtable show, and it seems as though I'm committed to help her through that one for a little while, and so I'll be on there too. I hope other people decide to join us on there. Which, by the way, you have an open invite if you're ever up past 10 p.m.
If it's Saturdays, I'll be there.
Well, you can drop in anytime if you want. Like I said, we're taking just about anybody's opinion, but as we heard last week, it kind of got a little weird, and I have a feeling every one of her shows is going to get really weird, so...
That sounds fun.
Yeah, well, it totally degenerated into something we didn't expect, and, I think that's going to happen every time, so...
Can you elaborate?
Well, you know what? Go listen to the archive. You can either get it on YouTube on the UCY channel, or you can get it at ucy.tv/jaded, just like I tell everybody to go to my show, which is ucy.tv/TOE. If you go to the drop-down menu and you can't remember the name of the show, I think it's right after right below Jack Blood on the show list. So there you go. If you can remember all that, interesting banner and all that stuff. But it is open discussion. I don't know who eventually I think she's going to wind up hanging up on people, but we shall see. It's her show,
Well, hopefully I'll be one of the more normal ones on this one.
I doubt it. I think it's going to get really weird really quick, and that's the way it's going to go.
No, I mean, I hope I'm one of the normal ones. I hope I'm not contributing.
I'm sure you will. It'll be too tempting. It's okay.
True.
So, anyway. A couple other little things. Feedback in the Facebook page for this show, the Ochelli Effect, which has a main page and then also has a discussion group. Stop with the private messages. I created the discussion group so that you could go there and make your complaints or say whatever it is you want to say, because I'd like to see what happens when very, very different opinions interact with one another, and who knows, I'll actually pay attention to that stuff and put it out there.
Chuck, we will be doing a fan mail show eventually.
If I do that, I won't be able to stay positive, Captain Gringo in the chat room. I won't be able to stay positive at all if I sit here and just read the mail from everybody and the messages. Oh, by the way, just somebody's in the chat room. Somebody's in the chat room all the time.
No, I thought that was a joke you were making about me, because I had just made that point too. No. It's just I actually have the chat room open, which I don't always do, but tonight I actually have it open. By the way, phone lines are open too if you want to join in on the discussion in any way, shape, or form. 718-717-8296. If you have me on your Skype list, you can drop in as well. That's fine. And, I'm still threatening to do the mythology show, but I'm trying to gather a panel. I'll be on the panel.
I know you want in on it, and I have promised you that since I first brought up the idea, but I'm watching the development of stuff in some of these forums, talking about what's going on in JFK research. And I'm not downing Kim's show, by the way, Captain Gringo. I'm not downing it at all. I just think it's great because it's kind of chaotic and it's going to be different from what I would do. So I'm real happy that she's doing it, and real proud of her that she's getting her voice out there as well. I'm just trying. I hope to encourage others to join in on the Jaded Show, because I don't want to wind up being the only one talking on there, because who the hell wants to listen to 4 hours of Ochelli spewing his crap?
You don't want an answer from your fans, do you?
No, I don't. And the thing is, we'll try and see if Frank Gregory Ford will carry over into that show, and maybe you guys can interact with him as well. On her show some. I don't know how long he'll hang around, but I'm going to ask him. So, there we go. Back to what I was talking about. Okay.
What are you talking about?
So all of these things going on, let me ask you another question. I mean, does anybody in your peer group give a crap about the Bill Cosby thing?
A lot of them. Not the one with his head screwed on straight, but all the other ones.
Okay, well, what do they got to say about that?
Just a bunch of references to rape.
Oh, okay, so it's the joking memes, like the one that supposedly spurred this whole discussion to begin with, the whole, my two favorite things, Jello pudding, pops, and rape, that kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, interesting thing came out, I think yesterday, that they're actually going to file a suit against him now for defamation defamation of character, which is an interesting kind
That's
of
an
development.
interesting move. You're the ones accusing him of rape.
Well, the problem is that his lawyers came out with an official statement, regarding exactly what they had said, and basically calling them liars. So therefore, now if they charge him with this problem in a civil proceeding, they don't have the same burden of proof required in a criminal proceeding. They can bring out their evidence. It doesn't matter how much longer later. Just like with the Martin Luther King thing, 31 years later, they finally got the civil suit in 1999, right? And they got the wrongful death conviction in the civil suit regarding MLK's assassination, right? Which involved the government and a conspiracy and everything else. So, in a way, it is a way to get something out on the public record. Now, up until the time they pulled that, I got to be honest with you, I just really thought that it was just a character assassination on him, personally, and found it to be yet another one of these useless distractions in the mainstream.
Well, I still see it as that.
Oh, okay. So, but what has been the discussion there? I mean, just jokes about it. I mean, that's about all your generation is talking about. I mean, for what you can see among your peers.
From what I can see, yeah, and they're going with the guilty until proven innocent, and then still probably guilty.
Well, it is kind of compelling.
I can't say I blame them. I mean, it makes a bit of sense. At least they're not saying he's genocidal.
Yeah, well, that's true. At least
I'll take what I can get.
At least Bill Cosby is not involved in the genocide against black people. That's a positive note, I guess.
Chuck, if I don't depress you once a show.
Yeah, I know. It's all right.
You ask for it.
Well, because I have this crazy idea, okay? I have this crazy idea that there may be a possibility that the younger generation will come up with, with a better thought process than the previous generation. And I'm hoping that as they reach maturity, as they go through adolescence, they might start to, think in a constructive fashion, or... Go ahead.
If you're waiting for them to mature, I don't think that the adolescence years are the right time to start judging, because they're still not there.
Well, no, but you could see where okay.
No, I see where you're going. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but the thing is, you get some indicator of what type of adults they're going to become when you look at their adolescent development. I mean, this is why anytime that you do a psych evaluation, for background check and all that stuff, they do go about that far back, at least in order to see, where you are on your way to before you considered, the concept of adult ramifications, right? So you can sort of see the genesis of what their adult thought processes are.
No, I get it.
Well, yeah, and Hooper in the chat room, yes, Bill Cosby thing just goes to show they, in quotes, can bring down anyone. Yeah, I agree. I do agree.
Is it true? Possibly. Is it being overused? You bet.
Well, yeah, and it does make you wonder, and of course, it's also some sort of watershed event or statement that, some basketball players and football players are running around, are running around with the "I Can't Breathe" on their warm-up shirts, and,
which I don't mind. I think that's okay.
No, because after all, in order for us to be intellectually honest with one another, regardless of how much of a meathead somebody is, they have their right to their freedom of speech. So I don't see what the big deal is exactly, except that they are more owned by a visible corporation than the rest of us, I guess. and therefore the visible corporations that own them, i.e. their teams, probably should have something to say about it. And then, of course, the greater overlord or slave master there who runs each of these particular leagues, who is in charge of the conduct of all the corporations, who are in charge of the conduct of all the little slaves, that they would make statements about this kind of stuff. And
conduct in air quotes, right?
Yeah, right.
Just checking.
Sorry, I forgot to say air quotes, yes.
Sorry.
So, man, oh man, where do we go from there? Look, if they're not talking about these things anymore, I mean, has debate silenced? I mean, is there a social meme sort of developing among the people you see around you, or what?
Outside of class, I don't really interact with a lot of people from my school.
Yeah, well, why is that?
I can't seem to find very many that I can have really an intellectual conversation with. I can't find anyone that I can have a discussion with about this stuff. Yeah,
I hear you. This is why you spend so much time on the Skype and trying to produce 10 shows a week. I know.
Oh, sorry. I've got nothing better to do.
See, but are you just bored, or do you want to make a difference? I mean, really.
Both. I want to make a difference, certainly. I'm out here. I would not do this so often if I didn't want to do something.
Okay, well. Hey, I'm just, and that was the curiosity with Colton tonight, because, I was really hoping to get him on, because he actually wants to be a police officer, doesn't he?
Yes, which is why I thought this would be a fun debate.
Yeah, well, I was looking forward to that, because I really want him to explain, and I want a lot of other people to explain their moral high ground versus the conduct of the institutions that they so desperately wish to become parts of, right?
I told you that story about the video he had showed me a while back.
Which video was that?
The one of the guy getting tased.
Oh, and right. Well, you know what? We'll save that for the debate.
I was trying to work around it.
Well, tasing somebody is definitely
better than killing.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, it speaks to a sadistic character, somebody who enjoys the concept of shooting somebody with electrified needles, in order to get them to comply. You wonder about that mentality, and that was part of what I wanted to explore, to be honest with you.
Well, Chuck, you might get your wish next time.
Well, let's try and do that, because, man.
Dude, I'm trying. I am. Trust me, I wanted to do this.
All right, well.
I had my notes prepared and everything.
Well, and that's the sad thing is, of course, we didn't get to do it tonight. Anyway. So, with the last, 40 minutes or so, where do you want to go from here?
I have not. The only piece of news I have seen, there were only two. The CIA torture report and Israel bombing Damascus. Israel bombing Damascus. Saw that on Tuesday.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, Israel started bombing Damascus.
Well, this is what they've told us so far, anyway, right?
Right.
Well,
I do all of my shows as if the people listening have no idea what's going on.
Well, yeah, I understand, and
because I want to bring the people who don't know what's going on to my show. So I talk as if the mainstream media is somewhat right some of the time, and I use their points to prove my own.
Well, that's one way to go. That's part of what I do as well. I mean, it's kind of interesting to see that, and I say this again, because the whole thing going back and forth when I was trying to get, the report itself, because I wanted to read the original document, and I wanted to pick up, articles about it and stuff like that. It was weird because it was so flooded with these discussions about, what I'm terming the backlash that would come from the Middle East. How this was going to inflame sentiments among ISIS. Well, here was the weird logical question. Let's just assume for a moment that, let's just assume for a moment that they actually had an agenda of their own and they weren't being controlled and all that good stuff. Let's assume that they weren't a product of our own intelligence agencies, just for a moment. And let's just assume that the mainstream narrative is true for just the sake of argument for a second. Here's the thing. How much more can they get inflamed than what they have tried to cause us to believe that they are? The ISIS crisis. I mean, really, they're beheading us. They want us all destroyed. They want to rule the world. How much more, how much more anti-Western are they supposed to get based on this? I mean, really.
I don't know.
If they actually played up their actual little toy, or played up extra...
I'll be back.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Tech. Sorry.
Oh, if they played up a little side card and all.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering about that. Like, exactly. Look, if you buy that ISIS is this, outgrowth of, or ISIL or whatever the hell, the Islamic State is an honest outgrowth of serious anti-American sentiment, is actually something that grew out of Al-Qaeda, is related to our, incursion and occupation in Iraq directly, and isn't something that we have control over or actually founded ourselves.
Yeah, true.
If you assume all that, how much more, oppositional are they supposed to be? Based on these supposed revelations of torture.
Yeah, let's just say I've heard some European propaganda thrown out there with about some nuclear devices lately, about other things, but
Well, yeah. But that just means that they're going to increase their weapons. It doesn't change the sentiment. My point is that the whole ostensive release of the torture report, which actually wasn't a release, it was a summary.
Yeah. Speaking of some interesting stuff that's been going on, yeah, you probably heard about the sanctions with Venezuela lately over human rights. Oh God, that's been I find that a real slapstick.
Well, yeah, but that was my point earlier, is that, we're, speaking out of both sides of our mouths regarding human rights, abuses is a little bit stupid.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's like us saying that, that frivolous spending is something that we need to stop in the rest of the world, when meanwhile we've been engaged in that for decades, up until now when everybody's broke, of course. But, I digress, right?
Yeah. One interesting thing that I have heard things lately, it's like how Ukraine's trying to play, Russia's actually in there, but here's something funny. The defense minister of the Ukraine invited certain military officers to help de-escalate certain things. So, kind of interesting ploy to how that little wildfire is being played.
And, the Ukrainians, interesting history there as well. Because remember when they were seizing upon the whole neo-Nazi narrative over there, and that this was the big issue and all this other stuff? You know what it was, is that people forgot the BS history that they were taught, that, the concept of the decimation of the Ukrainians by the Nazis during World War II is supposed to be something that they really should not have forgotten. You want to talk about a genocidal action, according to the official history, right?
Oh, that was a pretty bloody mess right there.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Exactly. No problem. But exactly my point is that if you have this, seriously bloody history, them sort of embracing the neo-Nazi individuals over there was kind of a ridiculous ploy, And I don't know. It's just I just can't stop pointing to the contradictions in the story,
Yeah, I know. It's like there's so much contradictions as things are going. It's like how things are moving along the whole Silk Road and all that. It's funny. South Koreans are playing that up pretty well lately.
Oh, yeah, and meanwhile, you know what? I wanted to ask you about something, too. It looks like Pirate Bay is gone, huh?
Oh, about that. Oh, one goes down, one it splits. It's like a, one old site that went down back in 2000. Can I give you a good starts with an N and all?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that site's... Oh, well.
I remember that, yeah. Napster. Yeah, I remember that. Weird stuff there. And you know what's funny is I never used to utilize any of that stuff, right? And I actually had gone a couple of days before that happened to go look at some things over there. And now I'm like, wow, that's funny. Like, I swear, some of this stuff seems to disappear right around the time that too many of us are having conversations about it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, when too much freedom of information gets passed around. I know. It's like when certain owners of the Pirate Bay kind of got tired of things. I knew one of the owners that went playing myself, but...
Yeah, well...
Well, it'd be interesting if I could get one of them to chat with you.
Well, I would love to talk to somebody about that, because that's a whole other mess. So, what have you been hearing in your circles about these releases of files and things that have been going on?
Some things not new. Other things, well, let's just say they're just getting tired of the same old bullcrap getting shoveled out. Where there's the basic stuff. Sorry to say.
No problem. I get it. It's a matter of still putting out the same old garbage and telling you that it's got a new label on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm seeing disseminated. But I'm also noticing that that there's a lot of quiet out there regarding this, except for those that are well engaged in that whole left right, the purple paradigm, as I like to try and call it now.
But it's like...
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just thinking over some people I do know would rather say they took what they learned from other nations and torture, yet they took it upon their own. This is from someone else's saying. Okay. I don't quite agree with everything on it, but it does have its meanings.
Well, and everything that's old is new again, and of course everything comes back to our assets like boomerangs. Just like we prop up the Hitler regime over there in Germany, and of course we get our scientists back because they were originally backed by a whole bunch of United States stuff to begin with. Look, in the 80s, it was CIA guys instructing these death squads in South America. I mean,
yeah. Mind if I bring up another song that type of death squads in Japan going into China in the 30s and all?
Oh yeah, there's another good one. Exactly.
Yeah, it's just a light topic off that one.
No problem. But again, there's all this involvement. And the only thing that see, because I think the whole deal with Putin and the Ukraine and all this nonsense is a distraction from what's really going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that gives it any sort of legitimacy is all this nonsense about sanctions and everything, which occurred just prior to Pearl Harbor too. It was the sanctions that drove that whole situation, and then the LIHOP situation there, letting it happen on purpose.
Oh yes, LIHOP. There's certain things that are being moved around lately, and I know certain U.S. assets are trying to provocate what you could do. Let's just say It's trying to slap the pink belly sort of deal.
Yeah, well, and meanwhile, the only people that are benefiting are those that fund both sides of the equation as usual.
Mm.
So,
Oh yeah, no. It's like how certain Russian bankers have been trying to sneak out of the country, but let's just say they kind of got their fingers snapped on the keyboard.
yeah, and you know what? And Joe in the chat room brings up an excellent point. Nobody ever discusses the genocidal behavior of Stalin. I don't know why that is never seemingly discussed anywhere, alternative or mainstream. I mean, maybe I'm missing it somewhere, but if somebody wants to point me to it, boy, I would like to hear that discussed because, those numbers are way underreported and still unknown to this day exactly how many people Joseph Stalin and his regime starved to death, and executed and everything else. I mean, and again,
Yeah. If I had to dig around, I could probably know. Someone that I used to know used to have those numbers. Probably about a few billion people, but I can put like 5, but I don't know the exact, even that myself. That's just a light estimate of I'd known over the last 20 years.
Yeah, well, I'd love to have those real statistics, but it's hard to know because, again, information disappears as it does, and the GRU over there made sure of that.
Oh, yeah. Reminds me of how our agencies are trying to use this ex-Russian media person lately. And this is something quietly I've seen myself, but I'm still curious what they're going to use him for.
Which one?
The one that ran to the Costa Ricas and all that type of deal.
Mm.
Yeah, he was the social media giant. He was like, he was Russia's version of, Facebook's honor. Similar to that, but Russian version.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, like Zuckerberg, but the Russian version of Facebook, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. There's been some new ones I've been seeing, but I'm just keeping a curious eye about that since I checked.
Hey, what do you think about Scene IS, by the way?
Scene IS?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I'm trying to remember about that.
It's another social networking thing that states that they're not allowing data mining and all that kind of stuff. As of the first of the year, Facebook is now declaring that they're turning all their stuff over to the NSA and all that, like they weren't already. But,
CNIS, any company can be backdoored either way, so it's like, if not when, or just give it time. That's how that being worked with. The one thing that I've seen lately that did concern me is, like, with some of the banking lately, like the creditors are willing to really drop the hammer on some things. But thinking of something that's probably coming up next year. Think of around September next year. There's going to be some interesting stuff that's going to be happening with 3 or 4 things I can think of.
Oh, yeah, and 2015 is going to be an interesting year because there's going to be some more declassifications that are going to be put out, buried in other papers. If you make a Freedom of Information Act request, for if that survives, if the FOIA statute survives, you're going to wind up with boxes of stuff. Whereas, they used to give you the 500-page document for the one page you really wanted. You're going to get boxes now that,
Oh, yeah. They're going to blunderbuss your butt with all that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is IMF loan reevaluation. How a lot of countries have said yes. Guess which 16 countries said no?
Do they have anything to do with the BRICS?
None of your BRICS countries, which I find funny. One was the Philippines, but that was side relations when it came to that one. But I know let's just say UK, a lot of US, and Japan with that one, which I find surprising with that little vote.
Well, the Japanese, I still contend that the Japanese are going to seek to retake their place regarding production and things like that. I don't know how they're going to compete with the Chinese, but I do see that economic move coming up very soon, provided the whole game doesn't collapse on us. I think the Japanese are starting to prepare themselves to get back in the game pretty much.
Oh, which was war-wise or more of an economic end for boosting?
Well, I think they'll be able to increase production and stuff like that. That's all coming back. I think, like the way it was, say, in the 80s and 90s. I think they're going to try and ramp that stuff up and get themselves back out onto the world stage as a preeminent power economically again.
There is some things that are still hemorrhaging that, but I think I know which ones you're talking about. I think they'll have some things back, but I don't think it won't be 100% yet. It has to take a certain fall of certain areas to let that come up. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, plus if they go back to manufacturing all the electronics, they're going to have to come up with a way to shield that stuff so it doesn't melt before it gets here, because of Fukushima, which nobody's talking about again.
Well, yeah, there's that, and also, how their car sales have been, how that kind of been.
Well, yeah, but in all fairness, whose car sales are really going well?
Well, no one, but they can't even sell their cars for $10.
Well, there you go. But again, who's going to buy it? Because if you got half a brain, you got to realize the stuff is radiated.
Yeah, no. It's speaking of stuff that's been irradiated. I've been thinking over some things lately, like all this gold operation that our little government shitheads want to do in Nevada. This is kind of a little more of a local deal, but I think it'll serve some interesting ways when it comes to gold. Because the areas they want to extract it from were probably bomb testing sites. Oh, ain't that pretty?
This is where they're supposedly mining new gold deposits?
One of the 8, but yes.
Nice.
Ain't that a way to pay back other countries? Give them nuclear gold.
Well, why not, right?
Well, if we get back China this gold, I'm really saying it's going to end up with that. I think China's going to get a good nasty case of yellow scarlet, if I put it that way. if they work it out that way, but some of these operations are going towards other people too, so I'm still looking into who's financing all that portion, but the gold company themselves has a few different handlers.
Well, and I'll tell you, like you were saying to begin with, it ought to be interesting. We owe so much of this, the Federal Reserve stuff has been purchased so heavily by China. Why not pay them back with the radiated gold? That would be hysterical. Yeah, that's about the way I think things operate. Sure.
Yeah, and then there's things with the Indian lands to where it could be possibly taken from them again by using the NDA type of crap. That will be like, oh boy, slap in the face again. I know the Indians were chattering up about radiation in our waterways back in 2006 and all that a few times.
Right, and what you're talking about is the Native Americans, right, who have the land which was parceled out to them and all that?
Yeah, and then the prison had their fun with them as well in the area too. There was a few things there.
Yeah, definitely an interesting story. So, man, oh man, what's going on locally in the streets there regarding these protests that have been all over the country? You guys get any of that locally or what?
One or two small ones at the Mel's Mall, and also one of the bigger malls here. There's been some things of it, but nothing too real big, because I know the casinos keep a beak under wraps on everything, so anything protests, they keep blocking the ramps, and I know, thinking that the CIA and FBI get trained here kind of disenfranchises a lot of things.
Well, yeah, and of course, you see the increases of... I'm willing to bet that by Christmas time, regardless of any other grand jury or federal investigation or anything else, I'm willing to bet that the day after Christmas we're not going to see any more of these protests in the streets. In any of the larger cities, I think that it's being utilized as a way of data collection. I think it's a beta test to examine what would happen if a significant portion of the population actually came out in protest, because I think they're preparing for something much larger.
Yes, something about that I do agree with you there, to where some things have been a little bit more of a chatter between all sides, and from what I've been listening in with. So, yeah. They're beauty with these monkeys. But yeah, with Cheney, he made me gag when he said that crap deal. But yeah. Anything happening locally in your area as well?
Well, absolutely nothing, actually. That's the interesting thing. I haven't seen any of this stuff on the streets in North Carolina. Where I used to live in New Jersey, there was some. But New Jersey is just the echo of New York when it comes to this kind of stuff. So it's no big shocker that it would hit the streets there a bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things, But again, I don't know exactly how widespread it is. You notice it's in a lot of the urban centers on the coasts, and those are the best places for for aerial observation and stuff like that. So, not a big shocker again. But I do believe it's just it's a data collection exercise to see exactly what the reaction would be on the streets if this or this happened in major metropolises and things, and that smacks to me of the preparation for something much larger.
Oh yeah, I know. It's like how all these quiet Ebola cases are being brought in, yet not being really talked about. But you know how that goes.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing. And notice that's not really part of the discussion anymore. Although, what was it? Time Magazine decided to name their Person of the Year as the Ebola workers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there we go. There's your Person of the Year for the thing that we're not going to talk about anymore, and all that good stuff. Because again, not a major threat to the population, as I said. As a bunch of other people said, this was going to be something that would just kind of blow over, and it appears as though that's exactly what's happening.
Well, yeah, but like I said, it's being used to an ends to a means.
Yeah, well, again, another way to beta test the reaction of a population in case there actually was a true pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what can you do, right?
Yeah, let's just say I've been... what nonsense with internet trolls lately. This week's been very annoying with some of them lately. And I've been hearing Jules been getting annoyed with Chat Tango lately, which has been hacked the last few weeks, and 2 days been DDoS'd and all. It sounds like similar to what this Lizard Squad sort of shit, but that's kind of some silly all on its own.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, we saw a ramping up at the beginning of this month of what I would consider cyber attacks on a whole lot of alternative people. All of a sudden, it seems like everybody's got malfunctions in their computers, got problems with their servers. We got streams going rogue, all kinds of weird stuff, hijacking of stuff where people don't have the password, but all of a sudden they seem to have access to things. Little bit of a chaos kind of thing sort of got run through, didn't it?
Yeah, it controlled chaos, but the thing with Chat Tango, it's been with all of their servers, seems like.
Well, a lot of alternative based interaction does utilize Chatango because it's an easy chat client to use. You know.
Yeah, true. But I know also Sony's had their fun with trying to get these kids that hack their network and DDoS'd it.
Oh,
okay.
Now that cracks me up, and I'm glad you brought it up because that was the last thing I was thinking here in the last 15 minutes. That I wanted to ask you about it because, of course, the continuous hinting of North Korea has gone after it.
Yes, with the North Korean, a South Korean student hacked into Sony and did that little commentary. And then also, while these American kids with the Lizard Squad tried to hack the PSN and Xbox One and all that, just to annoy the crap out of them, like LulzSec lately.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because they're like, oh, it's because this Seth Rogen movie is coming out. This is why it's being hacked.
Oh, God. They're just playing it up to their favor. That's all.
Tell me that's not too funny. I mean, look, I can see this Kim Jong-un not allowing it to be played in his fiefdom, as it were. I can see him, look, something that mocks me or makes a joke out of me, I don't want out here or whatever. But I don't realistically believe that the Koreans are going to go after, Sony because of this.
Nah. It's like hackers like to do practical jokes on these companies sometimes. That's how it comes with it. But one thing I saw that was ridiculous on its own, probably, there was this petition about taking GTA 5 out of stores and all that, of two different countries and all, Australia and New Zealand. Okay,
why? I didn't see that at all. What happened there?
Okay, there was a feminist petition to where you can probably guess where this is going with this one.
Well, let me guess, because they've now enhanced the experience where you can sleep with the hookers and kill them.
Yeah, to where they individually were segregating the hookers and they go after them. Yeah, to where, let's just say with that game, it's a little bit more of equal death when it comes to that little game, but still desensitization.
Yeah, but that's been going on since...
since the first game for that series, and there's been other things as well. It's like, sheesh.
Well, right, and that was one of those things that we used to have to actually go out on the internet and find out about, because, it was actually like a treasure hunt to find out about the little things you could pull in the game to create something happening. I remember... Yeah. It was like, Grand Theft Auto 3, I think, they had what they called the GIMP mode.
Oh, the GIMP or the hot coffee mod.
There you go.
Yeah, the hot coffee mod was an accident where it was supposed to be an in-office joke and it got loose. Okay. But, with this whole deal, these feminists made sure these two corporate companies, if you want to look them up, Tartar, them and their parent company pulled all of them out of their stores in those two countries, and yet they're acting as a very big bandwagon this week, and they've been trying to roll it over the U.S. as well. You have to look over the chain petition, but it's like, there's also other things with it. It's like, and I seen the counter-feminist. I mean, it's a whole nonsensical deal. It's funny.
But that's the thing. You got to fight over these video games. And I was just going to say that, okay, I played, the first one in Vice City and all that. Okay. And in Vice City, you could go and pick up the hooker, and then if you took her to a dark place, she'd do her thing, and, it would make noise, and the car would bounce, and all that kind of stuff. And then when she left, she would take away some of your money, but you'd get some of your vitality back. And then when she left, you could jump out of the car, pop her in the head, and take the money out of her purse. Of course, the weird glitch there was that you never quite got the money that she took. She took money from you 5 seconds ago, and you shoot her in the head, and you get less money back out of her purse than what you just gave her. So there was always a weird thing about that. But
that's game mechanics for you right there.
Yeah, right. And of course, if you used one simple bullet to the head and you didn't have a silencer on, as long as you popped her in the head once and you were in a remote area, nobody would bother to call the cops. So, pretty good. But this is what they're worried about. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, that's what some of... Yeah, this is just feminist petitions that have been going a little rampant. But there's a certain feminist that's been kind of acting as an agitator in the gaming world. I won't name names, but she does a lot of things that the FBI coordinates her to do very well. And let's just say, gun owner, she's not a fan of. I'll leave it at that one.
Oh, so kind of tying the whole feminist concern to the anti-gun lobby and all that?
Yes, and let's just say she's made up false threats in the past over like false terrorism type things going after her life, like the drama queen sort of deal. Oh boy!
See,
yeah.
And that is always the sign of a problem with one of these public speakers that goes out and says, they're following me, they're trying to kill me, they're trying to do things. Most of the time they don't have enough followers to be of enough of a significant threat for them to employ these types of assets to go after them. But hey.
Yeah, but Hillary Clinton gave her a good nice chunk of money. Let's leave it at that.
Well, isn't that wonderful? And the last thing I was going to cover with Dylan, but hell, I'll just ask you about it. You noticing the increase of stuff to get out the message that we're looking at another Bush-Clinton possibility and all that?
Oh, Congress kind of shot Jeb in the foot a few days ago, but still that may happen. There's a few certain things I've seen that the political monkeys in the works have been throwing poo at each other. Who knows if it's going that mix?
No, that's funny. I like that. I like that analogy. Political monkeys throwing poo at each other. That about sounds like, Congress. Did they even pass that bill today? You know what? I gave up on watching it.
Oh, the spending bill? Or that one bill yesterday I was trying to keep an eye on about that Monsanto shit with the FDA. I have still yet to find the vote on that bloody thing.
Well, okay, there's that, but there's also that spending bill which had all that other crap rolled into it.
Oh, that. I thought they snooked that past on the 2nd, but...
Well, from what I understood, they got it through they got it through the one house and needed to get it through today by the close of business, and I'm assuming that now they should be done. But I didn't see whether it was passed or not. I don't actually see it up on my newsfeed yet.
Huh. Yeah, because I heard, that 1.1 trillion that was set out to where it was hidden that, you're probably talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I heard about that being passed around the 2nd between those sides, but I don't know if they put something or delayed it. I don't know about that. But from what... Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking of when it came to spending. The spending bit... The time that it ends with that spending bill ends when the IMF does a reevaluation of all the banks and all that at the time. IMF loan reevaluations are due.
Well, yeah, that's when this one would expire again. But they actually had the resolution that they were supposed to pass today, and I just I'm not seeing it. So.
Huh. Yeah. But this whole IMF deal would be applied for every country out there. Because guess what set the precedent? Probably one back in September, one country, Algeria, within a U.S. court. Remember that little mockery?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
What else is old? I mean, Oh, man.
Yeah.
See, and meanwhile, like I said with Dylan earlier, this is why it's so depressing to me that that the younger people coming up are not thinking critically. and are not approaching these things. And I don't see, it may be another generation again, we're going to have to wait for improvement, among the younger, more active political people, I guess.
Yes, I know. It's just been, some things been trolly, some things have been just, ugh. I've seen a lot of what they've been trying to push lately, but even though all those bills leave them hanging on certain ones, I wish they did, but there was one more thing that was dealing with that, dealing between NATO and the IMF, to where there was a special dealing, to where you've probably seen this a little bit quietly, where more countries are recognizing Palestine, but would rather have a nullification of Israel. This is something quietly I've seen over a few countries. I'm not sure what I mean over the long run, but just something I've noticed over a tidbit of. I know, it's like how certain Israeli parliaments had been moved around in a few countries. Look where they ended up landing, and each one of them, you'll find where they are.
Yep, I know, and it's just the way that this kind of stuff has gone. Well, look, we've only got a few minutes left, so I'm just going to let this go unless you got something that you want to add in here at the end.
No, nothing else right now. I was trying to remember one last thing, but I'll worry about it another time.
All right. Well, look, man, I really appreciate you calling in there, Tech. A lot of people call you Hecty. I call you Tech. Actually, I call you something else off the air, but that's okay. Everybody knows you as Tech. So, definitely appreciate you calling in, man. And don't know what happened to Dylan, but I guess we'll catch up with him later. He does The Truth Speaks. That's what the moniker for his radio stuff, his YouTube stuff, all that. And we will get that debate together with this right-wing kid that we were supposed to have tonight, coming up soon. Don't know when. This Saturday I'll have Frank Gregory Ford on again, which ought to be interesting at the very least. This is the guy who tells me for the first time that there were actually weapons of mass destruction in Iraq because he saw them. Also was a military intelligence operative who was in charge of reviving people after these enhanced interrogations, and we're going to discuss that in depth on Saturday night. So that's what I've got. I've got a few other things planned upcoming, but hey, we'll get into that more deeply later. Really appreciate everybody for tuning in to the Ochelli Effect here on UCY.TV. Of course, you can always go to UCY.TV/TOE, and you can get the last few archives. You can join in on the chat room when Chatango is not screwed up. You can join in the chat. All that good stuff. Plenty of good stuff on the UCY.TV network. You can check out the other shows and everything else. And that's just all there is to that. So, there will be other things upcoming, other authors and other individuals who are involved in documentaries and a couple of other historical people. Hopefully, if my contact list is showing me what it's supposed to right now, I really hope that I will be able to bring you some interesting people of significance in history coming up soon. I do like doing my Witnesses to History shows, so definitely want to get more into that. Suzanne Posel will come back on in the next couple of weeks also. We're going to have a really interesting discussion with her as it develops. So you'll see what you'll see. So anyway, anything last words, Tech?
Well, just wish everyone well and have a good evening, and don't let those war bugs keep bugging you. Bug them off and just put them in their can, their place.
There you go, man. Look, everybody be well. Please don't allow people to poison your minds or your souls, because they are the only things that you truly own. And that is all there is to it. Don't let them lie to you. Don't let them tell you what your history is. Don't let them tell you who you are, because you are the only person who knows. And the individual, the free individual that you are meant to be, that you are intended to be by whatever you think created us all, is absolutely the point of all of this. decouple yourself from the things that do seem to control the aspects of your life that matter on a day-to-day basis. That's all I've got to say about that. And just about now, I should be getting that obnoxious bumper kicking in. There it goes. Have a good night, everybody. At the age of 19 in 1962, she was
See, but I have the files. You know, I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? You know, crystals and fondle slab of choice, and on the internet, professional wrestlers, and not just Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It doesn't. It's hard to get real information because seriously, they don't want you to have just read two sources.